there's harvesting going on is they're buying crops. They're buying crops from the farmers. The old process with some of these elevators, and I'm not exactly sure if it's like that with Arthur, was they would send a text message out to farmers that had signed up to get the cash price if you bring in your crop today and sell it to them. So Chicago Board of Trade says, you know, a bushel of corn's $3. The discount price if you bring it into our elevator today is 15 cents less, so $2.85 is what we'll give you if you buy it today. They'll text message the farmers this, and I don't even know where to start with the flaws with that process. Text messages don't make it through. Sometimes they don't format correctly on the phone. What happens if the price changed several times a day and you need to send up several updates? What if you're sending cash prices to buy their crops and they don't even have those crops in the ground? How many times do you like getting spam on your phone? Because that's what it equates to. So what Arthur Companies decided was, well, let's just build an app. Let's put an app together, something that's going to show cash prices and going to drive a bit more of a self-service market for the farmers. Again, they're more savvy, they're more tech savvy, they have smartphones, things like that. Here's their website. You can see, I don't know if you guys have seen their website before, but it was flat, it was text, it was maybe 1 or 2 colors, it wasn't inviting. This is really nice. It's got some animation at the top, you've got their news feed on the right, you've got the downloaded in the App Store on the kind of the middle left, and then down below that you've got some news information and stuff like that. More importantly, build a mobile app for them so that farmers are self-service in terms of gathering information in terms of what crop prices are doing, whether they're futures, whether they're cash bids, things like that. I got a couple screenshots up here you'll see. You can see in terms of the date on it, up in the upper right location. You can change your location. They've got multiple elevators, so if you're close to Arthur or you're at some other location, you're nearby that, you can change your location, check the prices as well. The nice thing about this, as we kind of jump through the different screenshots, is this is a single source of information, kind of the cloud-based model. So they set their cash prices with a vendor called DTN. It pushes it up centrally, pulls it down into the website, pulls it down into the app, changes real time. It's live. It just works. And they've had great success, lots of downloads. People are loving it. It's well thought out, well laid out. You've got news in there. You've got weather. You've got futures. You've got cash prices. There's our little weather pop-up. Again, so imagine yourself as a farmer, and every penny matters when you're selling thousands and thousands and thousands of bushels of product or your commodity, and you need to know these prices. You need to know what the weather's doing. This is one of those things that keeps them engaged, helps them be self-service, and it's the stickiness factor. It keeps the customers your customers as opposed to going someplace else and working with somebody else. So let's talk about Stanford, and we've got a couple Stanford people in here too. They've got a very broad approach to their presence on the internet. They have a full public website. So you jump out from your desktop, it's beautifully laid out, fantastic design, great information, easy to navigate. They also have a mobile optimized site. So if you hit their website, redirect you to, I believe it's m.stanfordhealth.org, is that correct? Thank you. And it's an experience that works well on the mobile devices, very similar in terms of the layout, but it's very clean, it's easy to navigate, good structure to it, kind of that parent-child relationship to the information. But they also have an app, I call it for customer productivity, more like patient information, and it was referenced earlier from Karen's presentation, but they've got it linked to their core system. And she showed screenshots earlier, I don't think I've got it in here, but you can find doctors, you can find locations, you can find information around centers of excellence. You can get all the information you're looking for in terms of mobile apps and your Stanford experience, and they've got it from a website on your desktop to a mobile website to an app, and it's very rich. They're very well thought through, and they've also, as I go to these last sets of bullet points, partnered with WebMD, and I think they may have taken this in-house under their own umbrella, but FitKids was mentioned earlier. They've got a suite of products that are in development, and some of them are released with the objective of changing kids' habits, making them aware of their attitudes, their exercise habits, what they eat, how they behave, just basically trying to develop a healthier generation as they're coming up. And they've got fantastic apps in terms of kind of like what would you call it? They've got emoticams where you can take pictures of people and you can put smiley faces on it. Again, that's part of an attitude piece. They've got an app that was referenced earlier, Move to Draw, where you can go out and you can see a map of a park you're standing in, and you can get a challenge such as draw a smiley face, and the kids run around and they draw a smiley face. It's fantastic. They've got other things that are coming up that is very powerful in terms of changing attitudes and changing the way this next generation lives and how healthy they are and how healthy they live. And what's the reason behind that? Lower healthcare costs, get a healthier generation, change people's habits. There's so many good reasons behind this Fit Kids program they have, and I think it's fantastic. So Sanford takes a much broader approach than some of the other companies we've talked about in terms of the experience you get from the internet, whether it's, like I said, a desktop, a smartphone, tablet, the app, and things like that. Any questions? Okay. So we've got this great mobility shift, and there's a lot of things you can question. You know, what is possible and how are you perceived? And we've gone through some of these questions here. Ben, what do your customers expect? But how do you take advantage? How do you set yourself apart as you look at 2014 coming up? What's different about you than your competitors, and why do your customers want to work with you? Because it's not like it was 3 years ago. Their perspective of you is digital, it's electronic, and it's from a mobile device, and it's changed. And if you start considering that and thinking in that context, you can start asking questions around, well, how are we going to make it different? What am I going to do differently? How do I differentiate myself? How do I make it a better experience for my customers? You start considering all those things. Certainly a lot more is available. So let's take a different perspective to it. So we've taken the route of the perception of your business, given the pervasiveness and the amount of mobile devices that are out there. But what does it mean in terms of your business? So you get somebody, and I mentioned it earlier, personal computers, the internet, they came from a top-down approach, right? So you had IT coming in saying, here's your new desktop, go ahead and use it, software's already loaded on it, you can run with it. IT connection, it's just plug this blue wire in the back and it works. Your internet's there. You can secure it, you can lock it down, you can control it. But this is different now with these mobile devices. Your employees are coming with these and they want access to your resources, don't they? They want to be able to do their job. They want to do it whether they're sitting at lunch, they want to do it heck, when they're sitting downstairs talking to the receptionist, they open up their phone because they feel they got an email come in. They want that ability to be effective on their mobile devices that they bring in. It's a whole new dynamic in terms of your security and the risks you've got with it. So what we've got is this notion around bring your own device. And it's funny, I don't know if I should say this, but 9 months ago when I started talking about this, 12 months ago when we started talking about it, it was a little bit fresher of a topic, and BYOD is everywhere now. But you think about the way this was just a year ago, it was a little bit newer. Now this bring your own device concept of your employees bringing devices into your corporate world and taking your resources and using it and the risks associated with it, again, that's one of those things that's now ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Everybody thinks about it. So my recommendation to people is, as you have these users that bring their devices and they bring it into your organization, you need to be concerned about having particular policies, okay? You need to have maybe terms of use, you call it, or rules or guidelines, things that are sort of mileposts or, again, guidelines that you can just attach them to and say, listen, this is my expectation around using these devices, whether it's you're grabbing your emails, whether you're trying to pull files off a VPN connection, whether you're accessing your systems. You need to have a policy and a set of rules that defines their behavior associated with it so that when something goes sideways, you can protect yourself. So you have an exit strategy if the employee's not with you anymore. You lose a device, how do you handle it there? So there's a lot more in terms of managing those employees with a groundswell of devices coming in that you're not deploying from the IT perspective. So it's completely different now in terms of your responsibilities. So what are your risks? Well, you've got the common ones. You've got things that typically come through email. You can get bad links, text and email, garbage, things like that, viruses, Trojan horses. I'm going to ask a question of the group. More likely to see that on an Android device or an iOS device? Any guesses? Android. And why is that? I would say Android too. Now, I'm not saying it happens a lot, but why Android? Open source. Again, we're back to, you've got 6 times the adoption of Android devices globally versus iOS because it's open source. Posting an app out on their marketplace or the Google Play Store is super easy, and there's really not a whole lot of hoops to jump through, as opposed to iOS, which is locked down, it's controlled. Heck, even notifications, you want to push a notification to a phone, you've got to get a link through an APN or an Apple push notification that goes through Cupertino. I mean, everything runs through the mothership with iOS. So with Android, you're more likely to see that, but again, I don't think it's too pervasive. And the process of building an app is not really a whole lot different between them, but the process of submitting the app and getting it approved and getting it on the store is much, much different between the two of them, and it's a higher bar that you need to clear. So again, your risks around those, the spam viruses, Trojan horses are there. I expect them to be greater as time goes forward, as hackers learn how to leverage them a little bit better. But also, I think the biggest risk is you've got lost devices and improper use of mobile devices. You've got people who may be using your corporate resources, and they may have information that's on your mobile device that you need to be concerned with. If it gets lost, how quickly can you deal with it? So what's your risk mitigation? MDM, again, 9 months ago, 10 months, 12 months ago, this was a newer topic, and today pretty much everybody's understanding mobile device management in terms of what it means in terms of controlling phones and setting policies and things like that. So we'll talk, actually in the next session, we talk a lot about productivity and mobile devices in the cloud and things like that, more so the cloud in terms of productivity. But what you need in terms of securing these devices, whether it's a tablet or a phone, is you need the security, but it's based from a different perspective. And we'll jump into it here. Let's talk about some of the vendors around it just real quickly. Us at Network Center, we went through the evaluation process probably 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago. When I first started, I led the evaluation of those 3 vendors there at the time. They were Gartner Group Quadrant 4, which means I think it's vision and ability to execute. Those 2 drive Quadrant 4. And those 3 players that you see up there were certainly strong in that area. They have similar functionality. They are similar in cost. What's the differentiator? From my perspective, we went with MOS 360 in terms of our recommendation to clients because their support and service is fantastic, and the console is easy to use, and they've got a great reputation in terms of the businesses they're servicing, whether it's from healthcare to finance to small shops, things like that, manufacturing. They do a really nice job, so we've been really happy with it. Got a lot of customers that are using it. Works really well. So that's what we have in terms of mobile device management recommendations. But regardless of what mobile device management solution you go with, you really have to consider it as a strategy in terms of protecting yourself. They all function in basically the same way in terms of a policy, enrollment, and administration. And the policy is just that. It is the rules, and I think I have some policies here in terms of, you guys can read the slide, but the policy basically defines what can the devices do. And again, if you're providing mobile devices to your employees and you're giving them a smartphone, you know, your level of control you should feel is greater. But I would say that your level of control on a bring your own device that, you know, your secretary brings her device, your level of control on that device should be the same. If they want to leverage your resources, there are particular rules they need to follow, and there are certain ramifications when they're violated. And the policy can drive that, meaning you can control what sites they see, what apps they download. You got blacklisting, you got whitelisting, you can push documents out, you can secure it. The feature set around MOS 360 in particular and what they do in terms of mobile device management is mind-boggling. It is a lot of stuff. It's super easy to set up, but the policy drives all that. So my recommendation I tell people is, listen, even though these devices are coming from the ground up and they're not being deployed by IT, you have a responsibility to protect your environment, and so if they want access to it, you got to control it. And you can quarantine people's access to your email until they're approved and they sign off on your terms of use. You can specifically let them know if they lose their device that you can wipe it. You can, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do in terms of controlling those devices via policies and administration. Here's just a slide in terms of features and functionality and how it works across the different against the different platforms. There are slight variations, as you can expect, with iOS and Android, the two big players, just because of open source versus closed and how they behave and how they work. But you know, I could go through a presentation or a demonstration and show you guys how it works, but that gets to be a little bit much. But just the point of it all being, understand that these mobile devices are everywhere. They're coming from the bottom up instead of the top down, and you still have to protect yourself. Any questions? We're getting here close on time. It's 1:43. Not that I could see anything. Karen wasn't kidding when she was saying you can't see the crowd. Any questions on this? And again, this was an introductory to it, and there is a lot more deep technical information if you want to understand how the mobile device management gets deployed, how do you set up a terms of use, what's it like deploying an app to the Apple Store and why is it so cumbersome, what's the process of getting approved to be an Apple developer, why choose a responsive website versus an app, what are some other examples we've seen. Certainly catch me offline, we can talk about it, but this was supposed to be an introduction to it and get you guys just kind of thinking about it and why things are so different. So, any other questions? Anybody? No? Thanks for coming out. Appreciate you guys. It's warmer in the hallway too. So we'll take a 15-minute break. I think we start up at 2 o'clock with some cloud information. Obviously check out the other vendors as you choose, and I appreciate you coming. Thanks guys.